This show is proudly brought to you by the #Me Network.
Kia ora, and thanks so much for tuning in to episode 41 of Access Granted, our weekly Kiwi tech and media podcast.
I'm Raj, my background's in film design, media and technology.
And my name is Mike, and my background is in information wrangling, connecting people and getting things done. Now you're here because you're a Kiwi that either works in or has a great passion for tech or media in New Zealand.
Episode 41, later we catch up with Amber Craig.
So last week we talked about how we're going to have a quick 60 seconds chat about how we make this podcast sustainable. And Raj, you've been looking at a system called Patreon.
Yes.
Patreon.
Patreon, yeah.
What is Patreon, and how do you think we might use it?
I've seen other artists and podcasters and film people look at this. This particular one I noticed because other podcasters were using it, and basically almost created a little community of hardcore fans, as well as adding a monetary component to it, where fans can give money, donate, and we can give other giveaways or other bits and pieces as part of our offering. You know, we can have our little profile on Patreon.
So our listener can go to a Patreon site, obviously sign up somehow, say I'm a listener, subscribe to Access Granted for a set amount, which they set or we set?
They set. So we might have a budget, but they can say, well, actually I'm going to give you $5 a month, $2 a month, $400 a month. But anyway, they can dictate that. They dictate how long they subscribe for and all that kind of thing. All we do is connect with them, so we can do things like Google Hangouts or just talk to each other on the forum there between us, and so the creator and the consumer can talk and have a chat about things, or hey, here's a show idea, or things like that.
So the big thing for us will be it's a little bit of income. It's like you guys will be showing your love and care by saying, look, for each podcast that comes out, we'll give you $2. That's a gold coin donation.
That's basically it. Koha.
And then obviously they can set the limit.
Yes.
So we might then suddenly go, we're going to do a show a day, which is never going to happen. But they set the limit and say, well, I'm only going to spend $10 a month or whatever.
No, for example, for us, we probably will have 4 or 5 episodes a month.
Yeah.
Including our Mauricio one. So that's about 4 or 5, isn't it?
Yes.
Depending on what month. So for a monthly fee and whatever, $2 a month, whatever, you get 4 episodes. It's not per episode, it's per month or whatever you want to do.
I see.
So I think you can just dictate that when we set it up, but still investigating if it's worth it, or if it's a hassle for users or not, or what it's like.
Well, I think we're going to give it a go, guys. So we're going to set up our Patreon site and see if anybody actually wants to give us $2 to run this podcast and help.
Yeah.
So we'll set that up. Probably not by next week because we've got Easter, haven't we?
That's right, Easter, yes.
But by the week after, we'll have it set up. And if anyone's used Patreon or got any views on Patreon, please tweet us at Access Granted NZ and let us know what your views are. But we're going to give it a go. We've got to make this podcast sustainable somehow.
That's right.
This is our dip in the toe in the water.
Yeah. Right, this week we caught up with Amber Craig about her many endeavours, including what a digital architect actually does and being on the Internet NZ Council. Enjoy. So we're back here at Studio One, surprisingly.
But today we are alone.
Yeah, it's quiet in here, isn't it?
But we have Amber Craig. Amber Craig, I've known online for a long time and...
Way too long.
So Amber is it just does so much, it's really hard to introduce Amber. Amber you all know from many places.
She's a Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife online.
A lot of stuff going on.
And so Amber, as you are fully aware, we have one opening question.
What makes you happy, Amber?
The pause, man.
Is she getting a prepared statement or something?
I did prep by listening to previous episodes and I still don't have an answer. So I think what makes me happy is probably my passions.
Yep.
I'm passionate about my work, I'm passionate about my side projects, all of them. Yep. I'm annoyingly passionate.
Annoyingly passionate? That's a good phrase.
That's in fact the way my partner...
Passionate.
Yeah. To the point of annoyingness. Yeah.
So tell us then about your work. What are you doing at the moment?
So my day job is I am actually an architect at ANZ within their digital space. And it
So
sounds all fancy buzzwords, but pretty much what we do as an architect is someone will come up with an idea and we try and technically work out how to implement it, whether it's using existing components or building new ones. So pretty much we help mould everything together and work out the big plan that essentially developers would start to create.
Do they come with business ideas or what sort of idea? Anything?
They can pop out of anywhere, so they could be technical ideas to look to fix things and clean up some of our technical debt, or it could be business ideas for new features.
Okay.
So it could really come out of anywhere.
Yeah. So it's not just saying no to things.
No, unfortunately. No.
So previously, just before we start recording, I had a rant about what architects do and what they don't do. Obviously, they build houses.
The good
No, they
ones,
don't even do
the
that.
good ones do.
They
We're
don't.
not the cool ones.
Not the cool ones, as Amber said. And my vision of an architect was, well, they just sit in a room, draw pretty pictures, and say no to things.
We do a lot of pictures. Yeah.
So that
on
true.
whiteboards. Yep.
There you go.
What kind of pictures?
Usually a lot of lines and drawing components to each other. So a big
see.
part of it is integration. How do we make one system talk to another?
Right.
And usually in some of the large corporates you have a huge landscape of how to fit everything together and make sure that components do the right things. And so it can get quite extensive, especially with some of the systems like banks, which have systems that are 60 plus years old. So, you have to try and deal with those types of systems.
That sounds harder.
And is it always technical? When you say systems, computer systems, or is it systems in the sort of generic flow of...
It can be computer systems, but I guess one of the things that I really love about where I am in the digital channel space is that I get to think about what a customer wants, and so what I do directly impacts the customer.
Yeah.
And so that to me is more tangible than trying to work on something that I would never actually see or be able to hold in my hands. So.
Yeah. Cool. And so how did you end up being the digital architect at the ANZ space?
It's a little bit weird because my story isn't necessarily how most people end up there. So I didn't actually go to university. In fact, I'm pretty sure in my 7th form year of college, my careers advisor said I was going to be a failure.
No.
That's
How
real
I'd
nice.
love to go back and talk to her. Pretty much because
Holy fuck.
at that stage I wanted to be a computer animator, and I was like, I want to do it. I've done physics. I totally thought I failed, but apparently I passed. But of course you choose your 7th form subjects based, before you get the exam results of your 6th year.
Really? This
They
is
did
all
it.
foreign.
Yeah, we did.
foreign
Yeah,
to me.
that's right. Yeah.
It's probably a long time ago for you guys, but that's fine. I'll help you remember.
Well, I wasn't even here. It was O-levels
Oh,
for me.
yeah.
But how
You
can
were
you
off
choose?
the planet.
How can you choose what you're going to do?
It just blew my mind
That's
that you would
just
do
That's
that.
why they have the
crazy.
careers advisor who tells you stuff you don't
Yeah.
want to know and don't understand where you want to go. They're really great.
Yeah.
That is bizarre.
And so-
and then to say...
So
oh, you
during the
did-
middle of the year, I then had a breakdown going, I'm going to fail in life, I'm not going to pass my exams. And my parents did me a bit of a deal and they said, you know what, you've gone further than we both did, because they pretty much flunked out of college at 5th form.
Yeah.
And they said, if you stay in for your last year, we'll give you a year off and we'll pay for it, everything until you work out what you want to do.
That's cool.
That is brilliant.
I didn't actually get that year off, and I have asked them for a refund, and my mother told me where to put it.
You're still waiting.
Yeah, still waiting for that year off being paid. But yeah, so in January, my father worked in IT, and I actually managed to get a job in his department. It was quite funny when I turned up, because his staff member had hired me, and he just turned to me and said, what are you doing here?
So he didn't know. It wasn't like...
Yeah, like...
Daddy
he-
got
yeah,
my
I
daughter a
thought
job.
he knew for some reason. He just thought I was coming into town with them. And he was like, what are you doing there? And I'm like, I work here. Why? He's like, who hired you? And I'm like, your staff member. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm just going to go talk to them. So I had the best learning experience I ever could. So I rolled out approximately 800 to 900 mobile phones across New Zealand.
Wow.
that's cool.
Where was this?
This was at Wrightson, so it was a
right.
agriculture company.
Oh, what, sorry?
agriculture company.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Nationwide.
So they were doing their big telecommunications project, so moving from one vendor to another. And so they just rolled out all these mobile phones. And it was an amazing experience. And then after that, there was the opportunity to be able to roll out. So we pretty much recabled all of their branches around New Zealand and then rolled out VoIP phones because it was much cheaper at the time. It was one of the few in New Zealand that had done it.
Well, when are we talking that? What, sort of 1890, 1760?
So I was
last
18.
week? We didn't have to say that bit. Now we all work out how old you are.
That's fine. I'm 30. I'm admitting it. I'm over the hill now. So
So when was this? Sort of 12 years ago.
2015, I was 15. So 2000, I was 15. Let me just...
So they
2015,
do you use a lot of maths
2003.
in your academic job?
2003.
2000
I'm just going to get more sugar.
Yeah.
2003, I think it was.
Yeah, so
wow.
2003 we were
Yeah.
rolling out VoIP systems and that type of thing. So it was pretty cutting edge at the time.
Yes, absolutely. I was working with, I can't remember, government department, and it was should we not? Oh my God,
Yeah.
You know, it was right on the.
How
Was
can
this
we
going
trust the
anywhere?
internet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They were right, weren't they?
So after 18 months of that, I pretty much got a project coordinator role at Telstra Clear because agriculture wasn't really the thing for me because that was really the major project that they were ever going to do.
Yep.
And then it was back to agriculture systems.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah, which is someone else's cup of tea, but not mine. So I went to Telstra Clear and I was on the BNZ service desk, which is quite amazing because they actually did some of the first rollouts of Blackberries. And I remember doing a proof of concept because they weren't sure if it was secure enough for their bank data. So that was quite interesting. And I mean, in hindsight, you just laugh about that, but I remember that people were quite concerned about these new things called Blackberries.
The most secure phones on the planet.
Yeah.
I also,
You don't know what you don't know at the time. It's like, yeah. I've read the brochure. I'm sure you're telling me it's wonderful, but...
And I remember having a BlackBerry for support calls as well, being on the service desk. And I got on a plane and I couldn't work out how to turn it off before they flew. And it was in the time when, it was still a bit dodgy as to whether phones could take down planes. So I just turned it as far down to silent as I could, shoved it in my bag and just pretended like it didn't exist. And then, when I took it out, when we landed, I pretended like I turned it on and then oh, look.
See, it didn't bring the plane down though, did it?
No,
No,
not at that
I think
time.
that was a big
3
move.
others around it, but not that actual one.
Yep.
Oh, it brings down the ones around you, not your one.
Yeah, I just learned, and then I had the amazing opportunity to move into a different service desk, and we got to start before the service desk actually started up. So it was still in project mode, and so they were still setting up processes and that type of thing. So we got to be heavily involved in how we would actually run the service desk and how we would do things, and so yeah, that was kind of cool. And then I got a little bored about that, so I sort of went out for a job, and it was a job at Telecom called designer. And I remember sitting there going, because I had done art at college for 5 years, and I wasn't sure if it was an art designer or a technical designer. So I turned up to the interview prepped for both, just in case.
We're ready to go left or right.
Yep.
Here we go.
And it turned out to be a technical designer, and I had the awesome opportunity to be mentored actually when I came into Telecom. So I was one of the rare opportunities where I was actually given a mentor. And I worked through with a gentleman called David Stewart, and he was just amazing, just would break things down, would keep it simple, and we were one of the rare architects who would actually, as well as design, we would be there at the end. And one of the things that was really great about that was that not only were we implementing what we designed, but we would take those lessons back into what else we were designing.
Yep.
So we were there actually at the end of it to see the good and the bad.
So does that normally not happen?
Not usually. So architects usually design things and then they'll pass it off and then they're off to the next project.
Yeah.
There's no feedback loop anywhere.
There is supposed to be in a project implementation review, which is probably on the end of most projects around the world for corporations, but I have barely even been to one, let alone two.
Well,
and I've done
the money's
crap
spent,
load
the
of
project's
projects.
finished.
Yeah.
Oh, do we need to? Let's move on.
Really, we get
I
launch
guess people just assume
nowadays.
they're happy and that's it. Next one. Don't know.
So how did Telecom have that set up? as that was going to be the way they set up. So when you went for the interview, for instance, there was the role, and then there will be this mentor.
So they had a few grad programs, but I think it was because it was under David, and he was very keen to make sure that we were training new people through, and so
cool.
He was purely dedicated, and I think partly it was because it was with him and he had that mindset.
Yeah.
My concern about grads at this stage is that in a lot of corporations they're sort of just chucked in and said float rather than actually chucked in and, how can we help you and that type of thing. And that's probably one bugbear that I sort of have is in a lot of corporations there's not a lot of focus on bringing young people through the different areas. So in architecture, there's not a lot of women and there's barely anyone under 40 in some cases, let alone 30. So it's quite an interesting department.
And also, are you talking about where you are now, but also just generally?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
I've been at Telecom, Westpac, ANZ, and I've really only worked with one other female architect.
So it's like the succession plan, isn't it? It's thinking that obviously no one's going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And in that case, it was an individual that said, well, I'm not going to be here forever. I don't want to do this forever. I'm going to make sure that there are people coming up, not just under me, but past me.
The thing that was interesting actually was just before I came on board, the gentleman who mentored me actually had an accident, and it was a bit of a life or death accident.
Gosh, yeah.
And so they sort of learned, well, crap, you have a wealth of knowledge, and how do we pass that on? And so I'm not sure whether that sort of kick-started a lot of it as well. But it just amazes me that we can never afford to have any staff, and yet we're still not being able to afford to bring up the youth and to sit down with us and go through how to do things. And
So it's the same architects that have been doing the same thing for so many years now. There's no fresh blood at all.
There tends to
Except
be,
for
but it
yourself,
comes
isn't
up
it?
through developers. But I
Yeah.
think architects are sort of pigeonholed into you be a developer, you be a tech lead, and then you be an architect. But there's also different ways in which people can come to be an architect. So one of my benefits is that I can communicate in plain English, which, funnily enough, in the technical world is sometimes a little bit hard for some people. So just to sit down with a business and go, what do you want? Is that actually what you want? Because sometimes, in the new world with Google and Facebook and stuff, they'll come up to us and they'll go, we want Facebook. And I'm like, okay, no, what do you actually want? And they're like, we want Facebook. And I'm like, no, step back again. What do you actually want to be able to do? And so those types of conversations, to be able to just sit down and pull out and actually have some social skills to be able to do that.
Yeah. What's the problem and the pain? Not, don't tell me the solution.
Yeah.
Because their problem, pain, solution, resolution is they've solved something that's probably not you.
Yeah, and also when you actually find out what their problem is, you can go, oh, well, we've already got something that does that. We just need to repurpose it.
During your telecom time,
Yes.
which sounds amazing, that is an amazing, having a mentor and someone that is, it's a bizarre thing to say. I'm about to say, obviously he's doing his job, goes 9 to 5, does his job, go home.
Yeah.
That's what they pay him for. But also to go, my job is not just that, it's also to mentor and upskill and bring these people
Nurture some
through.
talent.
That is also my job. That happened. How did that make a difference to you as opposed to others, I suppose, that didn't have that? Do you see a difference?
Yeah, I think the good thing and what I had with that sort of mentor support was someone who was actually there to support me when I had difficult questions, when I had process issues. It was always someone that wasn't necessarily my manager that I could go to and ask questions. Even if they seemed, I felt stupid asking them in front of others, it was always a safe environment with the mentor, etc.
So he wasn't your manager?
No, he wasn't my manager.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my manager was actually someone else.
Yeah.
Who was actually a female, which is quite interesting to have a female manager for architects. But with some of the people who didn't have that, because they didn't have that support network, they would struggle a little bit. And so I'm naturally a little bit outgoing, as you may have noticed. And so I would just go and help others.
It's the little bit. The little bit of that going, yeah.
And so I would go and help others anyway, because as soon as I found out information, I'm just you want to know, I'll share with you. I'm a bit of a communicator, so...
And that telecom, no, I'm going to jump because I know that you also did one of your side projects. Was that like this? Was this the first side project, the telecom one?
Yeah,
From the
I
sort of the
think so.
official career.
Yeah.
Explain what Telecom One was, and I know it is. But
So
explain what.
a couple of years in, and I get invited to this thing called Telecom One, and I'm like, what the heck is this? So I didn't actually officially started it. A gentleman who I work with, Neil Foster, actually started it and suggested that I should go. So I was like, okay, I'll try this thing out.
Had you been to Kiwi?
I hadn't been to Kiwi before.
You hadn't, so Telecom One was sort of the first...
Telecom One was my first intro into sort of the in-conference world.
Yep.
So I thought, all right, what have I got to lose? It's over a weekend. I have no children. I barely even had a cat, so, I'll give it a go. Rocked on up, and pretty much it changed my life. So it was one of those, they say change your life, and cliche, lights, birds are singing, etc. But it was one of those moments where it's sort of, and it's a little bit weird to have this confirmed, but I could challenge status quo. I could provide information to corporates about what I think it is and fight for what they should be doing better.
So before you continue, can you explain what Telecom One is and an unconference?
So Telecom One, which is based off an unconference, is basically where you turn up on a Friday night, there is no agenda. The attendees actually create the agenda, so one of the great things about it is that it's actually topics that people want to talk about, not something that you're being dictated to from someone who has decided to create an agenda for you, which a lot of typical conferences do. And then pretty much over the weekend, all the discussion points are popped into an agenda slot, and there's about 4 sessions on at the same time, and you would go between rooms. And you're basically told you're all equal, so doesn't matter about your job title, you're all equal for a weekend, and that your job is to participate as much as listen. The people who pop their names up beside the topics are there to more just facilitate the conversation rather than actually run it per se or have something prepared. And so it's you come away pretty mind fucked at the end of it, mentally exhausted as well as physically. There is a game as well, a bit of a tradition to play werewolf, which was quite funny. A few years later, my partner attended a Telecom One and saw me play werewolf and was like, I don't even know who you are. You're like a different person. I was like, oh, honey, it's just the werewolf Amber. It's fine. I'll return to normal Amber after the game.
But
He's
you're
like, you're
going
ruthless.
down.
You're ruthless. You just killed those people. I was like, it's just what you do.
Get on board,
It's quite funny. And part of it as well is creating those relationships at the event. So people who I met at the first Telecom One are like my lifelong friends, and I will always talk to and be there for. And it's those conversations and relationships you build at 2 a.m. in the morning over whiskey while playing werewolf.
Yeah.
Yelling at someone to lynch them, or, that type of thing. So,
And was that the first Telecom One?
yes,
it
yeah.
was?
And so after that, I was pretty much a bit of a convert. So
Because you weren't just a participant from that, you became the organiser.
I helped organise things. So there was a bit of a group who were pulled together to help organise things. And so the idea being that at Telecom was that we had a third non-technical people within Telecom, a third technical people, and then a third external. And the external people were there to sort of challenge status quo. But it was all under a friend NDA, so whatever someone said there wasn't taken out unless you asked permission. And so after that, I think I ran it for 4 or 5 years.
Definitely changed your life then.
Yeah, a little bit, and I got to attend Kiwi Fu and meet some more amazing people. So Kiwi Fu is like the national event of it. And I've even helped some corporates try and organise their own one internally. So just as a bit of a influencer, I guess. Hate to use that word, but
Going to do it at ANZ?
I don't know. I've actually
Don't have to answer the question if it's like, no, I can't tell you that one.
Yeah,
They might do it.
Are the banks up for that sort of challenge? Because you did this at Telecom, and prior to that time, which is what, 5 years ago now?
Yeah.
5, something like that, yeah. Telecom was definitely seen as that, big, everyone hated it, but it's a big
Big ogre.
ogre.
Yeah.
And having known that Telecom 1 happens, there was things that came out of it, an image change that happened. Not just because of Telecom 1, obviously, but that was the spark. That I believe that change that we don't have to be that.
Yeah. I think one of the key things that came out of the first Telecom one was definitely their social media team that sort of came out, and so the first Telecom one sort of started up the online response team, and so they were we were deemed as a bit of cowboys because we thought we'd brought up previously that social media was quite a thing and we should probably be listening to customers on it, and we were basically told it's just a fad, it'll go away.
Yeah.
And so we basically set up the Twitter accounts and the Facebook accounts, and we just replied. A bunch of architects, funnily enough, just started to reply with public information. And it was quite hilarious, the amount of people who would hassle us and say, well, you're sharing information. It's like, but everything that we've shared is basically on the website. So it's all public information. Yeah. We're just providing them and guiding them, because we had people out there going, Telecom, you suck. You've done this, you've done that. But actually, when we just reply back, they'll go, oh, thanks. Totally changed the perception of us just because we were there in the conversation. And bearing in mind now, every company, even startups have their own, small businesses have their own Twitter account. But back then, that was sort of a newish thing.
Definitely.
And we were always, funnily enough, at the time, Vodafone, they had Paul Breslin on, and everyone was like, why can't you just be more like Paul? But we had a different setup. So our setup was that we had a team, and we started to tag stuff with our initials, which now is done by everyone, but it wasn't at the time. So that people could start to know, and you'd actually have people replying back with your initials, actually wanting to have a conversation with that person. So it was quite funny.
That's cool.
But we each had different personalities, but together we could help. And it was basically the idea that the team was bigger than just one person. So tons of us left, and the Twitter account's still going. Whereas there was a time when Vodafone Twitter account was Paul Breslin, and when he left...
Well, they started from scratch, right, to build a team again.
They had to rebuild the whole attitude and tone of who Vodafone NZ was. So
very different. And so that was the first... It's not quite a side project, is it? Because it's sort of in, but it's not. But it is, but it's not.
Yeah. Most of the way... So most of the organising I did for Telecom 1 was outside of my normal day job.
Okay, so definitely outside of... It just happened to be for the company you were working for. Tell us, because we've said at the beginning, you're polymath, you do millions of different things. Let's list them, and we'll stop you as we go through saying...
What's that?
Tell us about that.
Okay, where do I start? I'll start with, Wellington Gilgate Dinner. So I'm probably less hands-off now, and a lovely lady named Michelle Burke helps run them now for us. But I'm still being involved in. Yes.
Oh, really?
Smart girl, yeah. Awesome that she's taking it over, and that we're more light touch.
Yeah.
I'm more like the money bags lady, so I've got the FBOS card with all the money account, and so I just turn up to pay things. And
Girl Geek Dinners here in Wellington is part of a wider thing. It's not like a company, but there's one in Auckland, and they're all around the world, is that?
Yeah. So it originally came out of London, I think it was, from a lady named Sarah, who saw that there was a lot of women, let me rephrase that, but there was a few women in IT, but of those who were in there, they weren't really connecting with each other, and so her idea was to get everyone together in a dinner and start having a chat. So there's been some amazing women that I've met through Gilgate Dinners.
Yeah. Do you happen to know when the next one is? I know the Auckland one was soon. It might have gone, actually. Now, this is 4 weeks in a time when you're going to hear this. What are we now? Beginning of March.
I'm sure I can give you some details if it's organised between now and then to put in the show notes.
I'm sure I saw something. The best way to find it, though, is type Girl Geek's Dinner into Bing.
It's wellington.girlgeekdinners.com.
Perfect.
That's probably easier.
Yeah.
One question on that. Can boys come?
Yeah, sure. So basically the idea behind it is that men can come as long as they are accompanied with a woman. So you have to be invited by a woman. So the idea is that it's to keep women numbers higher than men, so that women don't feel intimidated or like they're not being listened to.
Yeah, which is great because we were just
That's
talking.
the core focus still, is
It's
the-
girls.
it's
It's
the
girls.
yeah.
And you can come, but there's a little hurdle of.
Just sit there and record.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little hurdle to get over. You were just saying that some guy said.
Yeah, I've had some guys say to me, so where's the boy geek dinner? And I've basically said to them, feel free to go to any other event within IT or create your own. Not kind of worried about that at the moment.
It's called meetup.com. Pick one.
There you go, that's
I think
right,
you'll
yeah.
find that, unfortunately, is mostly in boys. Ugh. So you've got Girl Geek Dinner.
Yep.
That's just one.
That's one.
Next. You got a list there.
Yeah, where do I start? So my other side job, which is at the moment I am Internet New Zealand counsellor,
Counsellor.
as you like to say, Mike.
Counsellor.
What does
Yeah.
that entail exactly? You're the boss of the internet.
I wish.
Oh, sorry, Internet NZ.
Yes.
Yeah.
New Zealand.
So Internet New Zealand is a non-for-profit company. They help create policy, help run .nz domains, so the technology behind that and the processes. So we have two subsidiaries, NZRS and DNCL, and they each have their own boards. Internet New Zealand helps do a lot of work helping government with policies and advising different areas on it and trying to be more diverse, trying to fight for access for everyone, those types of things. So, yeah, and they, from the money that we get from the domains, we tend to put back into the community, as well as running Internet New Zealand and others. So
apart from if you're a member, and anyone who's listening to this who has any business that touches the internet, particularly if you're a techie of any sort, you should be a member. Like my analogy has been, if you're a road haulage firm, then you should be a member of the Road Haulage Association or the Roading Association. Even if you think, I just drive pigs from here to the farm, whatever. Yeah, but the thing you're driving on is about roads. You should be a part of what keeps your business alive.
yeah.
And that's what Internet NZ fights for and does for anybody who works in tech. I don't know, pick a tech company that doesn't use the internet.
Yeah, I think the key thing as well is we're sort of changing our identity a little bit. So you would have seen that we've got a new logo and hopefully a nicer website. And so we're trying to be more diverse in the membership as well.
Yeah.
But we're very much a membership-driven company, so we consult with our members before we do a lot of stuff and ask for their opinions and stuff.
Yep. So Internet NZ being councillor, how many councillors?
I think there's 12. I probably should know this, but yes, I think there's 12.
But so you're not the day-to-day running. You're like the board level, are you?
Yeah, we're board
strategic
level, yeah.
type level. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do a lot of strategy, which has been quite interesting because I'm the youngest on the board. I'm now one of 5 women on the board, which is pretty awesome.
5? Oh, that's awesome.
It's definitely a new, although in terms of being an architect, I deal a lot with strategy anyway, so we always, whenever trying to do new solutions, you try and build to a greater way to build things. So this is very similar. It's quite interesting to do more top-down look versus being an architect. You sort of survey the scene and what's happening.
Yeah. And the biggest thing for, I don't know if you're involved at all, but probably the biggest thing that Internet NZ, outside of the membership and people follow that would know about is NetHui.
Yep.
That's the annual event?
I believe so, yeah. But they also have some mini ones, so they had NetHui South.
Yes.
Strong focus on getting some events in the South Island as well.
Cool. So that's Internet NZ.
Yep.
Okay. So between the hours of 3 and 4 o'clock, what do you do? This is AM I'm talking about.
Well, hopefully sleep. Started last year, came up with a bit of an idea to do a video or video podcast type thing. So one of the things that I've been doing and organising at the moment is Beyond the Achievements, which is a bit of a geeky gaming, movies, pop culture sort of reference.
Because you're quite into games, aren't you? Quite.
Just a little bit. Yeah, the Wireless had done an article about me about being a girl gamer, etc. And I actually wrote for them about games for a couple of months. And Yeah, so just something that I sort of threw together. I always wanted to do a vlog, but talking to a camera just seemed a bit weird to me by myself. So instead I roped other friends into talking to a camera with me. So it made a bit more sense, I think.
Less pressure on you, right? So,
Yeah, so at the start of last year, I didn't know how to film anything. I didn't even know how to record sound. Funnily enough, I've learned a lot since then. And we launched November last year.
Yep. Launched in this very place.
Funnily at Studio One.
That's
nice.
It
We
got
even
me.
had a Tekken tournament. So the guys chucked chucked the PS3 up on the projector. We had a battle.
oh, that would have been so cool.
It was pretty epic.
I play a bit of Tekken.
And
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
I'm a bit infamous for my Tekken skills. So the idea was that they would fight it out and I would
Drink on the winner.
play the winner.
Nice.
And I won. No pressure. And funnily enough, the guy who won and I versed at the end, he had actually trained at the same place as me. So a call out to time out and Puriroa, where I probably
Funny you
spent
say trained at the same place. That is the same dojo.
money at the arcade there. Yep.
We trained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I trained at the Mid-City Dojo back in the day. Yeah, it's fun there. But a Street Fighter too. It's quite good.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
Do you do those often, or was that just the one-off thing, the Tekken tournament?
the Tekken tournament at this moment is just a one-off for the launch. Got to give away some games that was just to help determine who wins.
Nice.
We're trying to launch a video every week, although the month of February was chaotic.
Every week you're doing a video podcast.
Yeah.
Or video. Or...
Well, we started January last year, so we had 9 months to prep for.
I
And
see.
since the launch, we've had one every
Yeah.
week. But we're probably going to chunk it into seasons, just because it's never easy to try and do one in a week.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got some interesting new ideas coming up for season 2, maybe some stuff with food. So, but trying not to be, like a cooking show or anything. So we're trying to do things a little bit differently.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
I don't want to say there's a food fight, but I think there might be a food fight. I'm always keen for that. So we're just working through that at the moment.
Bugsy Malone.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then between 5 and 6 a.m, what do you do? I know you're sleeping at some point, but no, it's not that much.
So funnily enough, I also do some writing. I don't really talk about it much. I've actually done a few novels. So when I was...
You have time for novels.
Raj's eyebrows and he jumped off his head there.
Far out.
What the
I
fuck?
thought I was busy. Far out.
I do some novels and screenplays. So I listen to a podcast called Script Notes, which is John August and Craig Mazin. So
Right.
John August does a lot of stuff with the Johnny Depp director, I can never remember his name.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's gone. Yeah, married to
Crazy lady. Helena
Helen Bonham Carter and her husband or partner.
Tim Burton.
Nah.
Yeah, I win. Thanks. And
Competitive? What?
yeah, I am just a little bit competitive. You may have noticed that about me. And so the novel writing sort of started very early, so I have tons and tons of refill in my cupboard at home from when I was bored at school and just writing novels. Funnily enough, it sort of started with my best friend in college and I watching Dragon Ball Z, because we're quite into anime. And we were like, this takes far too long for a fight scene. We can totally write our own one. And so we did. And so we had all these pictures and storylines and timelines on all of our
That
characters.
sounds like another video series.
Yeah, maybe.
6 or 7.
Not necessarily friends with my friend anymore, so I might need to collect all the IP from her and get her to sign some contracts. But yeah, it's something that I'd really love to. Because funnily enough, I'm totally down. You may have noticed for all the Facebook posts that I've been doing about strong female role models in film and stories, just anything generally. And so a lot of the characters in there were strong female women. Yeah, which I find hilarious now looking at it, because everyone's like, oh, we should do more of this. And I'm like, that's just what I did when I was 15.
It's taken that long for people like Hollywood to catch up. Right?
Yeah, and so I've started to get sort of into screenplays, and now that I've been doing video blogging a little bit, I've always wanted to do sort of short films, and so tying into that, funnily enough, met someone this week who is a screenplay writer, so
Cool.
doing some stuff like that maybe.
He does the filming and
I've got a
stuff.
bit of filming, bits and pieces.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Media
Maybe
filming,
we should
guys.
have a coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I've got some friends who entered in Trot Fest last year, and they did the New Zealand podcast, filmmakers podcast. So just sort of playing around in that
Is
area.
there anything else left? I can't believe
I
there
think
is.
you'll have time to do the 48 hours this year, maybe.
Well, I am volunteering
Hey? Yeah.
to help out. Well, because it's really interesting to see who runs 48-hour film festivals.
She right at the last minute,
Interest.
everyone's freaking out.
Yeah.
You'll see each other then.
It's fun.
All the poor people who are outside and just crying.
Still
'cause
rendering on their
still
laptops.
rendering on their laptop.
outside.
I feel so sorry for them.
Yeah.
I just want to go out and give them a hug, but
They don't want to talk to you, they're busy rendering.
yeah.
You knew the time.
They
Busy
did know the
crowd.
deadline.
It's not like it's a surprise.
It's all about time management.
And what else? I'm also trying to do some mentoring women in IT sort of groups, I guess. So, especially within ANZ, they have a lot of focus on women in IT and making sure that they support diversity,
okay.
etc. Actually, a lot of top corporates do that, which is really great and supportive. But I'm also interested about, so I know that there was a bit of a startup created around helping to connect women, who were starting off in their career with people who could help mentor them. And it failed, and I don't understand why. So just talking to some of those people about why stuff failed and how we can help learn from it. Maybe set something up, because it's hard, and I'm lucky because I managed to have some mentors who helped push me through things and nominated me for awards when I said I'm crap, because I'm the worst person. I will pimp everyone else out except for myself. So you sort of know that there's people to poke you with a hot poker and go, you're just going to do it
Yeah.
because you're awesome. And
Yeah.
So
And there's quite a, and all of those, not quite all of them, but there is definitely that desire to, let's not shatter the myth of there are women in IT, because it's true. Do something about it.
yeah,
Absolutely do something about it.
yeah. How can we support them?
Yeah.
How can we make sure that there's more women coming into the industry? I'm super keen to get more young females into IT departments. So grads come in and they put them with, no offence, some boring people, and then their perception of IT is wrong, because they're thinking it's people with hoodies in a basement who never see the light of day. And that's just not true. Just doing that. And then also that corporate innovation thing, which I'm sort of trying to do. I'm a big fan, and it's one of my ranting points at the moment, is that, God bless my startup friends, I love them dearly, but also corporates have a lot of innovation and we just don't see a lot of it, because it's hidden within the giant walls of who they are. And a lot of people do some amazing stuff and it's just never seen. And so also trying to do, one of those things that's quite passionate to me is about taking innovative ideas within corporates and trying to implement them. So I've got a few papers I've written around, the process and how that could be put into corporates. Pretty much every corporate I go into, I start that idea and topic and, try and make sure, where is it? How do we make it better?
So you don't at all have that attitude, and I've seen that recently from certain government departments, but also those that are trying to help, which is very much let us inject innovation into you.
Yeah.
Grab it off the shelf and quickly chuck some in.
I'm a little bit annoyed at the word innovation at the moment. I know that everyone's using it, and it's been a buzzword. It's sort of like, I hate to say it, those gut and hype things. It's like way plateaued at the bottom.
Absolutely.
But I think sort of the incubation ideas where you can take things, and so people are good at taking ideas, but then it goes to the never land where it then dies. So rather than actually doing things properly, or it then goes off to project BAU. But the reason why it's not BAU is because BAU doesn't work. We've proven that time after time when projects go to die or take about 2 years to implement anything. So
the autarky of IT.
Baby.
That's where you go and retire. Have a nice time. Fair enough?
yeah, sure. Or Wairarapa.
The Wairarapa, grey town. It's the grey town of IT. I was going to say Nelson.
Is that all my projects? Yeah,
We haven't got enough time to talk about any more, to be
I was
fair.
going to do some podcasts, but those are a bit more secret. But
I'll have to keep an eye out for those, eh?
Oh, absolutely.
Podcasting.
if I can get them off the ground, yeah.
Yep.
what's the three things underneath all of that? And I think I've mentioned it, the women in IT. That comes out in almost all of those projects. Are there any other threads that you'd say through all of that ties them together? That's very specifically you, I suppose, as opposed to it's a subject or it's a thing. It's like,
I think innovation, but I'm going to call it thinking outside the box. So challenging status quo, not necessarily taking yes. If someone tells you no, don't take that as an answer. Work out why, and if it doesn't make sense, then challenging it. Diversity. That's one of the reasons why I helped create Beyond the Achievements, is because there weren't a lot of female characters, female people who were standing up and actually creating these video game vlogging and stuff. One of the main ones who is like my hero is Felicia Day, who created the Geek and Sundry Network. And so I was like, well, why don't I do that myself? I'm a female, I play games, I'll just do it. And so I managed a lot of our cast as well. So there's myself, Hayden, Michelle, and Ben comes in from time to time. And so, it's fairly even across the board in terms of male, female. We also have Tim, who's our cameraman, but he is an agent and is not allowed to have his face on the...
It's what?
We've got to deal with that. He's our cameraman, but he doesn't sit in front of the camera because he's got an agent. So
righty-ho. Look, if you've got time to tell us, I don't know where you're going to get the time to do it. Have you got time to tell us where can people find you? And I'll just blurt it all out, or even if you want to say, if you're looking for me for the videos, this is where I am.
Okay.
Because I'm sure people are going to go, video, or enterprise architecture, or Girl Geek stuff.
So I'm pretty much on Twitter under AMS Craig, which is AMS Craig. That's pretty much where I post most things. So I have a blog, it goes there. Beyond the Achievements is at BT Achievements on Twitter, but I pretty much retweet everything from my main AMS Craig account. So.
And the videos, are they on YouTube, Vimeo?
Yeah, they're on YouTube. So we were, and we made the conscious decision not to have ads because it's our hobby. We're not going to make millions of money off this. We do it for the love.
Yeah. Cool. So at AMS Craig, that's the place to go, and that's where they'll find all about you and connect with you.
Yes.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Amber.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
It's been great. That was
awesome.
Might have to come back and troll you guys next time.
Yes.
I feel knackered, actually.
Well,
I also
we need,
feel empty, as in I'm not doing enough.
The next volume of the next chapter, we have to get it back on.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Amber.
Amber.
That's all right.
Wow, I feel inspired, knackered, and ever so slightly lazy after listening to Amber. She's a true treasure here in New Zealand, and you'll gain from following her and following her endeavours. So tweet her at AMS Craig, AMS Craig. She'd love to say hi. Next week we talk to Bianca Muller from Law Down Under, who helped Raj and I get our heads around the value in your own startup, and it's not just in the computers and the software. It's amazing. And also she talks about football.
Nice. By the way, we caught up with Marie's show again this month for System Era. This week we talk about Netflix and other digital formats in that space.
Cool.
And what is completely wrong with some of them and what's completely right with some of them.
Comes out on Thursday, is that right?
That's right, Thursday.
Fantastic.
Couple of days' time. Yep. Right, find us on the social networks. Look for us on Twitter, Facebook and Google+, or chat to myself, NZ Raj, on Twitter, or
Miramar Mike.
On
Please
Twitter.
email us on accessgranted at #me.co.nz, and for all the hashtag goodness such as updates, news, prizes and much more, go to the #me.co.nz website.
Thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday for the Kiwi tech people sharing their own stories. Ka kite anō.
#me.co.nz